And we are live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you guys are actually watching, listening to this. This is the Business Growth Insiders podcast. I am your host, Jeff Evans. With me, the illustrious tick to my talk, Lisa McGuire. How you doing, Lisa?
We're hitting all the social media channels, aren't we?
We are, because this one is about to go bye-bye. We'll
Lots
see
of
you later.
controversy.
Lots of controversy, which we'll hold for another episode.
Yes.
But today we're talking with a good friend of both of ours, Matt Hoffman. Matt, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing well, doing well. Glad to be here.
Awesome. So a little bit of background on Matt Hoffman. Matt Hoffman is the founder and president of Frontline Technology. It's a ministry-focused technology and consulting company. Matt is also an ordained minister who has founded two nonprofit organizations. He currently serves as chaplain and board president of Frontline Ministries. Matt has worked with small businesses and large corporations like Sanyo and Panasonic, where he provided technology training, solutions, architecting, and project management. Ooh, that's a mouthful. Drawing on more than 20 years of experience working closely with various nonprofits and businesses, Matt is an expert in the field of technology for nonprofit organizations. Matt's passion for people and heart for the local church serve as the driving force behind Frontline Technology's mission to provide affordable managed IT solutions to nonprofit organizations. And for a twist, today's actual topic and discussion here, guys, is the power of identifying a niche market. So, Matt, you were able to go from something as technical as IT and niche down into nonprofits and churches. So, tell us the journey here. How did you go from getting into IT to being able to find that niche market?
I had always known since a little kid that I loved working in the church and around the church. My family likes to pick on me because 4 years old, I'd get up on the little section right above the fireplace and preach to everybody and pass an offering plate around. So they knew I was going to have some type of a preacher inside of me. But at the same time, I loved technology and had an uncle who gave me a computer when I was, 4 years old. Little games, let me know what the insides were, and I was always fascinated by it. And so, just kind of going through school, I was passionate about both. And then going and getting into the work environment, it was which path do I want to really go down? And I had worked several technology jobs, but I knew that I was very passionate about the church. So I went through, got ordination, did internships, started the first nonprofit with good, close group of friends there. But when you're starting off nonprofits, it doesn't always pay the bills. And I had known that I was really gifted in the technology side. So it was a big continual prayer of, Lord, how do the two work together? And over several years of continuing to learn more about technology, doing more in different ministries, eventually it came to Frontline Technology of this is how we put it together, that passion for the ministry as well as our gifts in technology. That's how we can then put those together and serve the nonprofit sector.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, and I know some stories because we've had these discussions before, but I want to make sure that you share with the audience as well. Could you give some stories as to specifically like with like a church and some of like the hacking and the things that can actually go wrong and why this is actually a really good niche for you in IT to be in?
Yeah, for many years, churches enjoyed just that luxury of nobody really messed with them. There was a certain amount of respect that people had for the church, and so they would just essentially leave them alone. But now it's no longer there. That luxury is no longer there for churches just to sit back and just, password 123 is what my password is, and not worrying about security on their networks. There was a report that came out just a couple of years ago of a pastor who got a breach in his email. And what the hackers did was took all those confidential emails from counseling sessions and notes he had, and they made all of that public.
Wow.
And that was a huge red flag to let people know, whoa, churches are no longer safe. It can now turn into taking that same attack, then you start beginning to extort the person that perhaps what the notes were about, the church itself saying, hey, we're going to release this information if you don't pay us. It really brought a big spotlight to churches and ministries that you're no longer immune from attacks, but you have to put the same level of security in your systems like a regular business would.
Cool. Wow.
Yeah. When I hear that, Matt, I just think about, the church. If you're a member of the church, that is a place where you can feel safe. You can share some of your vulnerabilities and, authentically who you are. And so to know that that could potentially be at risk to be released, and you're trusting the church to safeguard that information, that's a big responsibility.
And it does step even beyond that when you really begin to think is people like to donate to the church. So how many financial records are within the church itself, and the online giving, the way people are going, there's a lot more. The exact same type of information a person wanted a business, the financial side, is also within the churches. And so that's why they have to make sure all of those systems are protected. I'm keeping a close eye on, we're finding just within our local area here, church members who are being scammed into sending gift cards into a church. And when I first look at it, the church is making sure that their parishioners know, hey, this is not real, this is a scam, please don't fall for this. I'm waiting to find out the other side of that story of how did that information about who their church members are, it makes it almost sound like there's a bigger leak there than what is being known right now, and that's very scary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, Matt. Well, I mean, it's very sad, but this is kind of the world that we're in at this point, where nothing is out of bounds anymore. It's unfortunate, but I mean that's why your business specifically is something that, and obviously you're very popular. Your business is something that is needed throughout any type of business at this point. So let me ask you: do you still do business with other types of businesses, or do you refer that business out, or how do you work when other referrals come to you?
We still work with small businesses as well. We just went with a different approach. If you go to a typical company, it's everything that they have focuses on business. And if you dig around, you might find what they do for nonprofits. And we went to the complete total opposite of that. Of everything that we do, all of our marketing, what you see on our website, the first thing you see is we love nonprofits, and that's what we're focused on. It's the small businesses that have to dig to find out, do we support them? And yes, we do. We were set up with the mindset of how much security does a business require, and what do they expect to have? Now, how do we take that level of security, bring it into the nonprofit sector, provide them that same level of security, but bring it down to a budget that a nonprofit can actually afford?
Mm-hmm. And what kind of security are we really talking here? We're talking email security? What other types of issues are small businesses running into that you're seeing right now?
We take a bigger approach than that when we have these conversations with churches, things that they don't typically think about. Everybody knows about the antivirus software, and one of the big things we did was make sure we moved everybody up to a next generation antivirus where it's more proactive. I took it on as a personal challenge of, if large enterprises, Fortune 10 companies, what are they using to protect their machines? Now, how can I take that same amount of, or that level and quality of product, and bring it down to the nonprofit? And so what we're rolling out to our clients is the exact same type of antivirus protection that some large Fortune 10 companies, I'm not going to name them, look up the list, but Fortune 10 companies then use. Then we go beyond that in making sure that the emails are protected, being able to detect, has an email account been compromised? Office 365 is very, very popular. So putting things on the back end to scan stuff that comes in, scan things that go out. Has somebody been trying to log into it? Make sure we have encryption on hard drives. Then at the network level, we don't just rely on your off-the-shelf firewalls. We put the same enterprise-grade firewalls into their networks, and then go beyond that. A lot of churches, if you think about free public Wi-Fi is everywhere. But when you have churches that don't necessarily have people there all the time, it's who's really watching your wireless network when you're not there. Is somebody just pulling up in your parking lot and doing things on your wireless network? They may not even be touching the stuff that's within the church itself. It may be somebody who's just wanting to use free Wi-Fi to go out and maliciously do something outside of that. Well, when the FBI or somebody shows up, they're going to be at the church's door saying, "What were you doing?" So providing those extra layers of security that they don't typically think about is what is just kind of included straight across the board with any package. We make sure that those levels of security are baseline for everybody.
Okay. So when you say firewall, could you explain more about and dumb it down for people like me? No, just kidding. What is a firewall, and why does a small business, a church, a 5-person, 10-person company, what do they need to mess with a firewall for?
The firewall is basically the gatekeeper that keeps everybody out that shouldn't be on your network. So right after you have your modem from whatever provider, whether it be Comcast, AT&T, whoever it is, directly behind that is where the firewall connects in. And what that is doing is it's putting up a big roadblock, if you will, to try to keep it as simple as possible, to where only allowed things can get through. And all of our firewalls include additional security in that they monitor also what's going out. If one of the workstations, perhaps they did pick up a virus that happened to somehow slip through, that's where the next layer kicks in of, hey, there's a computer trying to get out to a website that it shouldn't be going to, and it'll block that to where they can't send information out, and they'll let us know that there's a workstation that's been compromised. But the firewall itself, though, will hide everything that's within inside of that network. So when perhaps you find out what the IP address is of the church's network of their internet provider, and you start trying to mess around at it, the firewall kind of stops them at there and kind of hides and doesn't let them see anything that's beyond the internal network. And so that way it kind of helps mask and hide everybody on the inside.
Okay, cool.
We like to use Centurion is our baseline product that was brought up. If you really start thinking about it, you can tell with a bunch of pastors, ministry leaders, because you had the Centurion soldiers, the big guys that really knew how to put up a big fight, protect things. We were being a little cutesy with that one.
Yeah. So Matt, I'm really glad Jeff brought up about, do you work with businesses other than nonprofits? Because you and I have had that conversation, and I think a lot of business owners, particularly when they're starting out, if you ask what their niche or target market is, they're afraid to identify one. But you and I had that conversation about, identifying a niche, and is that a risk? But what have you found? What have you found maybe from other people getting referrals, or how does that work?
I found it wasn't quite as scary as I thought it was once I took the step.
Okay.
Taking advice from you and some others that were kind of help coaching us down the road, I had the initial mindset, like most business owners, of let's just cast this wide net out and hope we get something. And what that turns into much a waste of dollars, because you've not really hit who your perfect client is. And so when we really dumbed it down to the very basics of what are we trying to do, then find what our passions were, and then realize there's this niche of the nonprofit that we're going to go after. And talking with others and a lot of wise business coaches kind of said that is what you're going to want to do. Put your focus on that and go after it. And what we have found is we've got a very positive response back. And on the flip side is, as ministries see that we're serving them, they're the ones who then are telling others about what we do and are helping bring others in. So those that we knew we wanted to pick up as a client, your small businesses, we're not having to put our marketing dollars towards them because they're finding out about us through the clients that we are targeting.
That's really good. It works to your advantage. And even other IT companies, is that true with that as well?
Yeah, we've received referrals from other IT companies because they don't focus on nonprofits. Most of the time when people think nonprofits, they think there is no profit. And that is a very valid point. So that kind of goes back to how we all started. When we knew that we were going to go after the niche market, we built Frontline from the ground up with a nonprofit budget in mind. So that meant every service, every vendor that we talked to, every solution that was to be considered had to fit within a budget that nonprofits could afford. And so by doing that, then we were able to bring those prices down and then service nonprofits to where the company can still pay its bills and do what it needs to do, but then nonprofits can then pick up those services. And so we've really began to just try to own that space, if you will. And so when other IT companies get approached by a nonprofit, we've had two that we're getting great referrals from that are saying, hey, that's not something we specialize in, but Frontline Technology does, and they've been sending business our way because of it.
Very nice.
That's great. Matt, so besides other technology companies, what other companies are great referrals for you at this point?
Good question. I've not really considered a lot of that, where that the referrals are necessarily coming from, because a lot of our referrals are coming from the networking groups that we've joined.
Okay.
So PowerCore being one of them has been great, and being able to work with a lot of great people, because there's a lot of credibility when you start joining those closed networking groups, and so that's helped bring in a lot of referrals that way. Then on the flip side, we also join several nonprofit associations. So being a chaplain, an ordained minister, there's associations that I'm able to join that the whole association is just a big group of churches and ministries. And so being able to be positioned inside of there, they can see here is a faith-based organization that understands your vision. And that's where a lot of the referrals have been coming from. The business referrals, those just seem to be coming from church members. I don't know much more than that, other than the pleased board members and pastors that we're helping are the ones who are sending others our way. But PowerCore, Chamber of Commerce, other IT companies, those have been the biggest driving force for bringing people here. Because when I moved here 3 years ago, we knew nobody in Atlanta. So we had to jump all in and get involved in networking, just to let people even knew who we were and what our names were.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of business owners, need to understand that, niching, number one, is not the be all end all, but it is a great way to generate, more business, but it's also a great way to become the industry leader in your sector, and it's also a great way for networking. So you did mention some of the groups that are more for churches, and there are plenty of other niches out there for other business owners that have those niche specific associations, nonprofits, chapters, whatever. And if you join those, and start providing a lot of value up front, you're going to see those referrals come in. And a lot of other businesses just don't understand that, and it's certainly a way to to get ahead and to generate that extra income.
Jeff, can you maybe speak to, from a digital marketing perspective, the benefit of identifying a niche, when it comes to targeting maybe certain type of ads?
Yeah, sure. So when you're niche, when you go down to a specific vertical, then you have an easier time becoming the expert in that vertical. So let's take real estate, for instance. I'm working with a real estate agent from a search engine optimization perspective. So trying to be found in Google, which is incredibly difficult to do as a real estate agent because of things like Zillow and and all the rest of them. So I've spoken to her and I said, look, yes, you can do real estate throughout all of Atlanta, like every other real estate agent around, and they all want to do the same thing. I said, but to get ahead and to really make a spot for yourself, a niche for yourself, would be to start to focus on one city first. So she's saying Gwinnett County, and I'm saying, well, don't do Gwinnett County, do Duluth, do Lawrenceville, and just say, the real estate agent of Duluth, of Lawrenceville. And then when you do that, people are automatically attracted to you as the expert within that field, right? So I work with another company that does medical SEO. Well, they're instantly attractive to other physician practices because that's all they do. So that's what they know. And then it's easier to then scale it's easier to put those processes in place, those standard operating procedures, right? Those SOPs. And it's just an easier way to be able to grow your business. Same thing with being actual digital agency that niches. Right now I have a few niches that I'm working with and working towards figuring out exactly which one to fairly completely commit to. You never completely commit, because what's the point? I mean, I'm not going to say no to business. I'm just not going to do that. Unless I don't like the people, then I'm definitely going to say no to the business, because, why would you work with somebody that you don't want to work with when you own your own company? That makes absolutely no sense. The three of us own our own businesses, and because of that, we took that leap, so we get to make those choices. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so. I think also when you look at being able to niche in and you do concentrate only on one area, there is a risk, as we've just seen, of what we've gone through over the last several months. What if that industry goes under, their activity decreases quite a bit? Then your business is solely dependent on that. But one thing we know, Matt, is nonprofits, there is a place in the world for them. And I think, one thing you talked about is the false sense of security we get with nonprofits because there are volunteers coming in. Do you maybe want to talk about some of the risks that your nonprofits didn't consider with volunteers?
Yeah, churches in general love their volunteers. Growing up in the church, I was always wanting to volunteer and help out, and so they don't want to exclude them. And so what tends to happen, though, is you get somebody who perhaps isn't fully trained in something. I'm thinking of one ministry we worked with, where essentially their whole wireless network was set up by some guy who says, "Yeah, I installed a wireless router in my house one time." And that was their level of security. Then they were having problems with the pastor not being able to use his tablet up. Imagine trying to preach, and all of a sudden you can't download your notes because there's a problem within the wireless signals. And then, hey, what's the password on this side of the building, or what's the password in this room? And it just turned into a big mess. And it's not that volunteers are bad. They have the greatest of intentions. It's they may not always know. But then you get, on the flip side, you get some who are great at what they do, but they have other jobs. And so how much do you want to really burn out your volunteer when a computer system or a network goes down in the middle of the day and you're trying to call them saying, "Hey, our church can't work. Can you take off work and come over here and fix it?" And so it's that fine line you got to do. And one of the things that we do when we meet with a ministry is we first come in and tell them, we are not here to replace your volunteers. If you have volunteers who are really good at what they do, we would love to work with them. And what will come through is we will help set a plan for the church, so that way everybody's working on the same page, because you want things to work cohesively together, and you don't want one volunteer going this way and one going this way. So we'll try to help set a plan to where everybody's on the same page. And then, using the strengths of the volunteers, we'll let them do everything it is they want to do, and then we'll fill in the gaps behind that. So that way the church can have that sense of security, at the same time still fully engaging the volunteers so they can feel like they're really contributing to the church.
Yeah, very good. I think we do need those volunteers. It's a place to connect and a place where people feel valued and really contributing to the mission of the organization.
It's true. Matt, so you work with churches and other nonprofits. What's your ideal client? Like, who do you really enjoy working with the most?
The most ideal client typically starts at about 3 staff members. It's not to exclude the smaller ones, but where we really can sense that we're really putting a big impact is when you start getting about 3 staff members, because then the church has really began to embrace their vision and begin to going after something. So 3 to 50 staff members is going to be our ideal nonprofit client. And we love, the first thing we do in our conversation is not necessarily talk about the services we can offer. It's engaging with them. That is our first core value, is engaging with a ministry to find out what is they're trying to do. Who are they trying to reach? Who's their target audience? That's when we'll dive into the pain points of what's going on, and then we try to build everything around that. Because once we understand their vision and where they're going to go, everything we do for them is all trying to drive that vision and that mission. It's not a one size fits all. We don't come in with a preconceived plan of how we're just going to put in a whole bunch of technology. We've got to facilitate their journey. And one of the things that we always like to tell pastors is that, yeah, frontline technology, we've got the tagline, we keep it simple, but the principle behind everything we do is to see lives changed. And as pastors and ministry leaders, we know that we've got a sphere of influence, people that we can talk to, pray with, work with, but it only goes so far. And so when we come in as technology professionals, if we're trying to help them reach that vision, that church is going to change lives that nobody in our team will ever meet this side of heaven. And that's success for us in a day, is knowing they're going out changing lives. And we played our part with that.
That's great. So what is a basic warning sign or something that a small company should look for, and know that they should be contacting you immediately?
If they have an internet connection, they should probably be contacting you.
And there it is, folks. There's the answer we've all been looking for. All right, Matt. Well, look, is there anything that, look, we've got small business owners, we've got large business owners, we've got mom and pop shops, we have all sorts of different people that are going to end up listening, to the show or watching this, replay on YouTube. So is there anything that you can tell these people that will be helpful from a security standpoint if they can't afford your services right now, or because of COVID everything is crazy and they want to work with you at some point in time? Is there anything that they can do now to just kind of brunt the storm until then, or any kind of information that would be valuable to them?
Yeah, we would tell them first and foremost, make sure that you have some type of antivirus on your machine. If you're not using ours, make sure you have something there, because you want to have at least some baseline protection. And don't use public Wi-Fi. Going out to your local coffee shop and because they've got a good internet connection and hopping onto that's open to everybody. Some of the ethical hacking classes that I've taken, and I stress that, is they show those vulnerabilities. And we would simulate in those classes a public Wi-Fi, and having just sitting at your machine looking like everybody else in there, you've captured all the information that people are doing and all the information they're sitting back and forth. I had an example of this is I had a friend of mine who challenged me on that. He didn't believe me. And we were he was running a gig at some lounge, and he goes, prove it. And so I'm sitting there looking like I belong because I'm a techie and I'm sitting next to the sound booth. And I began running these tools. And I was focused on him because I didn't want to capture anything else. And I began to then tell him the last message he sent on his phone. I showed him how many messages he had in his Facebook inbox and proceeded to ask him if he wanted me to read his message. And he stopped me there and said, please don't. And then from there, I stopped and said, and that's as far as I'm going to go, because my system has now picked up vulnerabilities in the credit card processing machines here, and I don't want that information. So that's as far as I'm going to go. But they do need my number because that should not be accessible from the outside world. And so That's what's accessible in a lot of cases. Now, larger businesses are beginning to still separate their inside,
Wi-Fi,
systems, but you as a person are still vulnerable to everybody else in there. And so there are some very inexpensive VPN solutions from a Vast Business. That's one I will personally use. When you go into Vast Business, I think it's about $80 a year. And I've got a VPN software on my machine. So as soon as I log on somewhere and it says, hey, this is not a network that we know, it turns the VPN on, then encrypts my data to try to help keep me safe from anything there. It does tell me you probably should be on this, but if you're going to, we're going to protect you. But those are some of the very basic things that people can do, as well as pay attention to the emails. One of the things we like to show people is if you get an email, you're not sure about it, just hover your mouse over it and look at the link and see, is it really going where you expect it to go to? Don't click on those things that you're not familiar with. If the website you have that kind of insight, so I'm not sure I trust this website, skip it. There's no point in putting that risk on there. And there are some very inexpensive solutions that will put little check boxes. You'll do a Google search, and it'll put a little checkbox on the screen showing which websites that they say are safe, and a big red X where they say, "Hey, don't click on this link." And we're talking those types of solutions all combined. You're looking at maybe $150 a year to protect about 5 machines. So it's not a lot to put some base protection there. But kind of going to that, when you guys were leading into this question, I was thinking the fear that a lot of nonprofits and small businesses have is that we can't afford an IT guy.
Mm-hmm.
And our packages start at $20 a month.
Wow.
To provide that baseline security. So it's not as expensive as people might think. And there's a lot that we can bring to the table. So the conversation's free. And if we can't help you, we will always point out things that you should be doing. So might give a few free tips that can help their business if they really can't afford bringing our services at the time.
That's awesome.
At $20 a month, you can't afford not to, just from hearing some of those things. I'm just thinking how many places you go and there's public Wi-Fi and how many people are using that. So many. So great tip.
Yeah, thank you. I'm completely paranoid and will no longer use public Wi-Fi. Thanks. Luckily, we're all kind of still stuck at the house, so no problem there now. But yes, if you take anything out of this, this message today, guys, get a VPN for sure. I mean, like literally, just go get a VPN because sooner or later, every single one of us is on a public Wi-Fi. It just happens, especially if you own your own business. You're going to a meeting, you're going to a networking thing at a coffee shop or wherever. It's always best to have a VPN. I know I'm going to go out and get one now myself, thanks to Matt. Spend more money. Thanks, buddy.
For me.
yeah, exactly. We'll get a buy one, get one offer. All right, Matt. Well, we're going to wrap up this episode. We've gone over 30 minutes, and that's prime time for us as a show. So where can people find out more? Obviously, the ticker is going, so people can find you at frontlinemsp.com. Is there any other places that people can reach out to you?
We'd like people to go to the website first so they can see everything about us. And at the very bottom of the page, after you've scrolled and seen all the good information there, there's all the links to our newsletter. If you want to sign up, get some good tips that come out. We don't spam you. We're big on not spamming. We block spam, so we don't spam our own customers, but we do provide, once or twice a month, some really good tips there. But at the bottom, you'll have all of our links to social media. As well as we provide a convenient link to where people can actually schedule a call. We don't try to catch each other off guard, so they can find a convenient time, go on there and say, "Here, I need 15 minutes," and they can schedule it whenever it's convenient for them.
Awesome. All right, Matt. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Everybody, go check out Frontline Technology and Matt Hoffman. You will not regret it. And of course, guys, you can go and listen to or watch past episodes. We are Business Growth Insiders through YouTube. All of our recent shows, the COVID shows, are up there for sure. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple and Google Podcasts and Carrier Pigeons, and you name it, we're always there. BusinessGrowthInsiders.com as well. So for Lisa, for myself, for Matt, thank you guys. Have a wonderful day and
take your business and grow.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye-bye.